So I want to talk a bit more about CGs, or captions. Right now, they're used by almost every news station out there. They're kind of at a peak of popularity. The use of them kind of goes up and down, just really depending on time. Time is in what portion of time we're at, and just like anything, they have popularity and they lose popularity and they come back. Looking at the history of CGs, we know that we've been able to create these things almost since the beginning of television. In the beginning, they were just basically cards that people would hold up in front of the camera, and it was, they were actually handwritten or typed. As technology moved into the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on, you got computers creating these things. And the basic CG has always been a person's name, their title, maybe their location. And those are what you saw right up until 2001. What really changed things was 9/11. When 9/11 came in, people, for the first time in a long time, were tuned in. They weren't watching channels. They were really glued into CNN, Fox News, and all of these 24-hour news networks because they were waiting to see updates and hear what was going on. And at that point, once this happened, the news channels recognized that people were leaving the news on at work. They were leaving the news on while they were doing errands at home, and oftentimes people were turning the volume down. So one way to ensure that people stayed with the channel, didn't change to another news agency, and that they were kept up in the news, is they started really putting out a lot more CGs. That's where you started really seeing the use of the ticker at the bottom, the top CGs, and these kind of things were really used during that time frame in the early 2000s. In fact, if you watch Saturday Night Live skits and things like that from that era, you'll see they would make jokes where there was so many graphics on the screen that all you could really see is like a person's nose in the middle or something like that. They calmed down from that. From about 2005 maybe to 2010, things really calmed down a little bit. But then the movement around 2008, 2009, maybe around 2011, CG started coming back in local news, where you started seeing it. And the reason we started seeing that, if you look at what happened in around that time frame, is the popularity of social media. As social media came around, people started really spending a lot more time with their computers and their phones, and less time watching television. And so again, people would have the television on, but oftentimes the volume was turned down, or they just weren't focused on it. So in order to get people to actually watch the news and keep focus on it, they started including CGs. That way, if they couldn't hear it, but they saw a caption that grabbed their attention, they would focus away from the laptop and focus back on the television. So that's just a quick, I don't know, I think that stuff's cool. I like knowing why and where we're at and how we got there. So what we're talking about when we talk about captions, now I showed the example of the now this and the different things where we just see, again, we're stepping away from having voiceovers and stuff like that. A lot of web stuff these days, and a lot of news is going to the web, is going to be this kind of thing. A caption that explains what you're about to see. And different news agencies have different requirements. Again, now this, because they're going through, they'll let you put about a whole sentence. I was talking to someone the other day, I forget from where, but they said that the max number of words you can put in your caption is 7 words. So you're not really looking to put together paragraphs or books. You've got to get your idea out in as few words as possible. So, and with this news agency, the max is 7. But they want you to do it in 3, 4, or 5, or as close to 3, 4, or 5 is probably about as small as you can make it. Again, the idea is to give an idea of the story without the person having to turn on the volume. And what you run into is we talked about how to caption interviews and this and that, but you have what's called, I've always called it a lead CG or a lead caption. I know at some news agencies they call it a top CG. At others they'll call it the well, lead and top are the two that I've heard. I've heard other things such as but those are the two you're definitely going to run into. And what are the parts of them? You're going to want to have the logo, but that's always up there anyway. Then you have your description, you have your location. This would become something we call a 2-line. There's others called 3 lines when you may have another line on the bottom, such as the reporter's name or something like that. And then what you're going to see here is that it gives, again, CNN correspondent walks among ruins of Raqqa. We now know what this story is. It's not even quite a sentence. It's just an idea of what we're going in. So when you're going to go do your CGs, and if you hear my fan in the back, I'm exporting a video right now, so we're not going to get too deep into how to do the CGs, because you should have seen that, learning how to do rectangles and stuff like that. Rectangles and text on screen and stuff like that. You probably got through editing 1, multimedia storytelling, and those other classes where you're doing where you're focusing on editing a lot more. So here, I want you go out, you follow the assignment. You're going to find a story. You're going to tell the story, but rather than having VOs, you're going to run CGs throughout it. Your CGs are going to be one sentence. Are going to be about one sentence long, and just give the idea of what we're seeing. You saw the other PowerPoint which talked about how to handle interviews and different things like that. But the idea here is to run, run your story and run some CGs. I'm not going to get too into, you're not going to lose points for creativity if if it's just a basic black CG with white text, or the reverse, like this one is a white background with black text. I don't care. I do want at least a 2-line. I'd like to see a 3-line. Again, a 2-line being the location, where you're at, a quick description of what the audience is about to see, and then the 3rd line being the reporter, reported by blah, blah, blah. Now, understanding that everywhere you go is going to have a different kind of template for what they want to see. Some they want the reporter on top, they want this, and then they want the location on the 3rd line. Some just want a 2-line like this, then they'll CG later in the person's name. You'll get a regular CG coming in. Let's just watch a second of this.
It's hard to even find traces of the life that was, or even imagine what these streets looked like when they were full of people with children laughing and playing.
So you can see they keep this up throughout the whole, until they move into the next one.
It was a 15-day battle just to try to retake this particular square, and every single rooftop, she was saying, was lined with snipers. This was one of the main squares where ISIS would carry out their public beheading.
There we now become a 3-line, a true 3-line. Location, they're keeping the one lead CG just running throughout, and then now we've got her name and her title. So this now is a 3-line CG. This isn't exactly how I'm going to want you to do it. Of course, I want you to have, I think, there's a certain requirement for numbers of CGs. How long should you keep your captions up? I'm going to say about 8 seconds per caption. So, here again, this is CNN's style. Everywhere is different. I would like to see different CGs throughout this. In other words, I would like to have her something here talking about what location, what neighborhood is she in, something different. And that's going to be your assignment. CNN here has decided they just want to keep this one main CG up, and then they add in 2-line and 3-line information.
And executions, and they would place the heads of their victims on these spikes as a gruesome reminder to others of what their fate might be should they decide to defy ISIS rule. It is also where ISIS sold its Yazidi captives into sexual slavery. As the final battles, she was just saying, were taking place in this entire area.
So there we go, back to 3-line
locations. Now, we can't go and see them. Commanders tell us there's...
Now, this one is straight up video, caught with a professional camera on location. That is definitely, I mean, being CNN, that's how they have to do it. With your assignment, I'm allowing you to use your smartphone as long as you get quality video shots. As long as you get good sounding audio, your smartphone will work. I'm also going to tell you, if you have a DSLR and you want to use a series of pictures like we've seen in the other examples that I gave you, and use a bunch of still shots and almost create a sound slide type story, that's also going to be acceptable. Again, you're going to have to decide how you want to create your CGs, whether you want to make it under a video story. Some of you have already created new stories for other classes and things like that. I'm going to allow you to use those and caption those. You know, people are going to come to me and they're going to say, well, do we do photos or do we do pictures? Do we do nat sound and professional cameras and mic'd up interviews? Here's going to be my answer to you. You are in college and you have a goal and a dream. What is it? This is a very traditional style news story with very traditional, CGs and stuff like that. And you can see how CNN does it. Do you want to work for Channel 4, Channel 5, CNN, a news station in Austin, Chicago, somewhere like that? Well, then you want your story for this assignment to look like this. Or do you want to work for Vice News? Do you want to work for BuzzFeed? Do you want to do something like another news agency? There's smaller news agencies, more local news agencies with that Vice News, BuzzFeed kind of vibe. Down here we have The Guardian and things like that. If you want to do something for them, find what they do and create a story that looks similar to theirs. In other words, mimic the CGs, the video style, and the different things like that. I'm giving you some options here so that you can put together a package that you can use on your resume reel to apply for locations and job agencies that you're interested in. So do you use still photos with longer CGs of a sentence or so, that is more BuzzFeed looking, that's more Vice News looking? That would definitely be an option if those are the folks you want to work for. Or do you use a traditional news story with shorter captions and CGs underneath it or over it, that you can submit to Channel 4, Channel 5, CNN, and those places? You've got to decide who are you and what story do you want to tell and where do you want to find yourself after graduation, and now create the assignment based on that. So that's a basic short idea of how to do captions, of what the captions are and how to do them. It takes some practice. You do, keeping things short and things like that. There's a lot that goes into it, but they're pretty, it's once you get it, you can knock these things out. I know there's people who do these every day, all day, and they can knock out, a whole newscast worth of CGs in about an hour. And you'll get there also.